Hello, everybody. Let me just make sure I can see chat so I can see if anyone can not hear or see me. I see Quindy's talking about her momentous occasion and event where she was inducted into the Reaper Hall of Fame, which this year was renamed to the Reaper Miniatures Ed Pugh Hall of Fame. I was inducted some years back, and I got all teary and weepy, and it was very unexpected and appreciated. So the Ed Pugh Hall of Fame are people who don't work at Reaper Miniatures, but who have contributed to their brand and the hobby in general. A lot of sculptors are there. Like I see green users in chat, and they're in there, and Jean and Jason and Bobby. I'm pretty sure they're all in there. And then you've got people like Debbie, who does a ton of work at the MSP Awards. So, you know, everybody talks about the judges and the painters and all of that stuff, but the people who really make the awards go are sitting at the admin desk, answering everybody's questions, filling out paperwork, double checking paperwork, putting stuff in the computer. It's not glamorous, but it's vital, and she's done that every year for many years. She also runs the speed paint events at Gen Con, which, I mean, that must take a lot of energy too, because there's a bunch of them all day, and then they have finals and stuff. So that is the honor that Quindy has, because she's so helpful here. I think most of what I'm going to give you to link today, Quindy, is going to be on the Reaper website, if that helps make it easy. Our opinions were asked. This decision is made by Reaper, but they often ask our opinions, and I thought Quindy was an excellent choice because she's been so helpful to us here on Twitch. She gets things up on YouTube so fast. She's always there in the chat to answer questions. She deals with my extremely vague, I wrote an article once, and then she finds it within like 2 minutes. So are people saying the sound is a bit low here? I am not sure why that would be the case. I think I got the microphone in the usual place. And Bryce points out that Quindy can paint like nobody's business. Alas, she has not been painting enough, but he is definitely correct. I mean, for time reasons, I think. Yeah, I don't know why I've had problems with volume. I think I'm missing one of my docs. See, and I thought we checked everything, because I have the mic set up pretty high. Unfortunately, it is non-optimal for me to realize this before we start the show, but it is one of those things that's difficult for me to test before we start the show. So the mic is active. Why are all of them active? That's weird. You're not hearing any echo or anything, are you? Oh, Twitch had muted Quindy, so she couldn't hear me because of that. All right, so I don't know what this panel is, but it tells me lies because it makes it look like all of my audio sources are up. But so for people who aren't Quindy, do I sound like the normal level of low, or do I seem more low than normal? Zachariah said Quindy had a great gold entry this year, which she just needed support to finish the Evil Mini. Normal level of Rhonda. Okay, I'm going to stop looking at settings I don't understand. And say hello to everyone in the chat. Zachariah AM, Babachook Ford, Gel Tip, Bryce, Grey Mouser, Quindy, of course. We got a pretty full house already. I'm surprised you all came back, because I've been very intermittent, and I've missed a lot, and I apologize for that. I'm just scrolling back a little in case I missed anything super fun. Daka Flocka Flame. So, you know, I've been dealing with the thing with my back, and I think eventually it kind of got into my head as well. But it was really good to go to ReaperCon and see friends I don't get to see very often, and just the general energy level. I'm I'm hoping it kind of is going to help me give myself a kick in the butt to get out of the dumps and see what I can do. My life has limited parameters, and it always has. I got to work within those. So I'm probably not actually going to paint today, although I am going to show you paint. We're going to do some swatches. Got my swatch cards already. So I'm going to start with the... Quinty did need so much moral support to finish that beast, and thank you for providing so much of that. Jill Ship said there may have been a con in the middle of things. Yeah, it was... my one regret, pretty much every con I've ever gone to of any variety, is not having enough time to spend with all the people I'd love to be able to spend time. Sometimes not even seeing the people. But when I do, it always just seems like some years you get to spend more time with some people and other years other people. So hopefully it all equalizes out. But, in a magical dream world, we'd be able to hang out and talk with everyone. Now, admittedly, I don't think I want my trip to be much longer. I stayed a couple days after, and I was feeling pretty done with the hotel bed. And the Texas, oh my gosh, it's a little hot there. And there's like nothing to protect you from the sun. Like I live where there's a lot of trees and it's often cloudy, and it was like literally every time I would walk outside, I'd be like, ah! Like I felt like the sun was trying to assault me. So it was really nice to come home, which is weird. I didn't used to say that about Tennessee. Green users who live where the sun assaults you also. It was really nice to come home and feel like I could go outside without something trying to stab me in the eye. Yeah, Bob and Julie, it does seem like I barely saw you this con. But then I try to think back that we've had some cons where we've gotten to sit near each other and spend a lot of time talking and hanging out at dinner and stuff. We didn't do a lot of as many as the group dinners, I think, and that's where a lot of the hanging out jabbering happens for the artists. Queenie says it went by so fast, especially because I spent the first 2 days with my head down trying to finish that beast of a figure. I personally like to finish before I get to the con, partly for that reason, partly just because I can only concentrate on one thing at a time, and then if that's done, I can go focus on con things and not worry about it. But everybody is different, and sometimes that deadline, that push, is what gets you to finish a figure. So I have once or twice worked in a hotel room, but I think there was a figure that I brought to something, and there was like a little part that was just bugging me, and eventually it would not stop bugging me, so I had to work on it in the hotel room. But it is definitely my preference not to, partly because the light of a hotel room is not great. Bryce said Quinny needs to share tips for wrapping minis for transportation, and that is an ongoing thing that we all struggle with. I believe, I do not recall who this happened to, but one person who went through TSA, he had a figure case and everything, and they were not kind to his figures, or to him by the sound of it, and that is distressing. That is it's one of the risks. It's distressing. I've transported figures in about 25 different ways because that's how it is. Chelta said we brought the heat from Texas back to Massachusetts, right? I'm not from America. Give me that break that I don't know these things automatically. Tip number 1, no sparkly tissue paper. Oh my gosh, did you really get sparkles on your thing from the tissue paper? Yeah, I for a while I was doing glitter on Christmas cards. I made Christmas cards and I did a bunch and I added glitter. And then after a few years of seeing glitter in August, I was going through all my art stuff and I'm like, you know what? I think I should just give the glitter away. I think I have to learn to work the sparkle in some other way because the frustration just isn't worth it. The reason they call it craft herpes becomes very evident. Jedi Jared asks, when I received the ReaperCon theme award 2 years ago, what was the physical award? Unfortunately, it's in another room. I can't go get it for you, but I'm trying to remember his name. So when the theme was the pirate area of Adon, like it was for 2 years, I think, there's a captain. He's got this really fancy coat. Jason sculpted him. He sculpted 2 versions, actually. He got this luxurious beard. They did a big 3D print version of that and painted it gold for that theme award. So every year they try to pick a miniature or something that kind of fits with the theme for that year. I do have a picture of it somewhere. Quindy did not step outside the hotel a single time until I went to leave, so the heat did not bother me. Well, I didn't go out a lot, really, until after the con was over, and then we were going over to Reaper and stuff like that. But yeah, whoa, Texas, just really. Gel Tip thinks that was Mike. Okay, I'm not sure what that. Oh, Dutcher. Massachusetts was correct. Ooh, go me. So speaking of ReaperCon, I'm going to show some things. This is the Arrowgate box. These are currently for sale. It's getting away from me. On the Reaper website. The majority of the miniatures that are in here, I have to imagine will be coming out later for individual sale, because all the 2022 ones seem to be out now. So I was double checking that. I also have, in a similar vein, the stuff from the swag bags, which have sold out. And then sometimes after they finish with all of that, Reaper will find they have some of the paints left over or some of this left over, and they'll put that up on the website as well, which is reapermini.com. So I am trying to focus on things that you either can get now or will eventually be able to get. And you can get that Barrowgate box now. Yours will not look quite as crushed because I unpack I often will, after the con, I'll grab all my class supplies and stuff like that and pack up a box. A lot of us will pack a box and send it back to Reaper because by then I'm all tired and weak and I don't want my luggage to be as heavy. So I cram this full of other stuff, and then it went in a bigger box. So mine got a little smushed. And also I've opened the things here. So your items will be in nicer condition than mine because I have not touched your items. So let's see. Someone said, well, we got the link up, and Quindy is linked directly to the Barrowgate box, and also Reaper Mini in general. So Zachariah says the price of the box was reduced to $180. Jelltip says, I should have used that box for extra stuff. Yeah, I crammed a bunch of stuff in here. So, some of the things that are in here, I'm going to keep it in this view for a minute. This is paint. These are miniatures and one non-miniature thing. We're going to open all of that. But I'm going to start with the thing that won't fit in the other camera. A couple of things, I guess. So, this is the Reaper Keeper miniature bag. You may have seen this previously. I think they showed it on Reaper Live when it first came out. So it will fit these plastic cases. I think it'll fit 2 of the plastic cases. You can just assume I demonstrated that more adequately. And you can purchase this right now. You don't have to have the box to get this. You can purchase it right now on the store, and you can purchase it with some of those plastic cases. Some are fitted out to put store paints in, and some are fitted out to store miniatures. There's a little extra pocket. There's Velcro, so that if on previous years you got some of these, I don't think they made any of these this year, you can stick them on there. So that's the Reaper Keeper. Yours will come in a plastic bag that I've already removed mine from. It's got a shoulder strap and a hand strap. And that just seems very useful for packing things up. So, I don't know where I'm going to put it exactly, but I enjoyed that. Then you also get I'll show this a little more on the other camera, I think. So this is the Barrowgate source book. If you're familiar from previous years, we had ones from the Pirate Town. So this is a haunted city that's near a bunch of barrows where who knows what has been buried. But this is just it's full of stores and NPCs and businesses with rivalries and adventure hooks and the politics. There's the families that run the place. There's a ton of cool stuff in here, which I know because I help do copy editing on this, so I get to see it in advance, which is fun for me. And then Ron does this beautiful layout with all these pictures from the artists. So Joseph Wolf is a very creative person. If you've had the chance to playing one of his games at Reaper. You already know that. And he comes up with the vast majority of this material. Sometimes someone like Jason Weeby will have an idea and add that in. So this is great fun. I don't think this will be available unless they have like just a few individual copies or something. My hope is that as Dungeon Dwellers comes out, that they will in some way make this previous material available, because it's really great stuff, and the source books are system agnostic, so you can kind of take stuff and plunk it down whatever you're already playing in, or just do some of the adventure hooks or characters or whatever. And so there's a map on the inside cover, but because you've got pages in between, there is a bigger map in the box. So now I will switch over to the other view. Actually, I'll get that book back just for a minute to show you the cool stuff. Because this really is one of the treats of getting the thing. I have a camera set up today where I cannot sell my, where I cannot see my view very well, but hopefully I will manage to stay in frame and you can tell me if I don't. So there's the book. Geltip was asking whether you can get only the paint holder foams. I don't think they sell foam separately. So I think you need to get a case. It's not a thing I know a lot about. So I'll give you a closer look at the art and the nice layout that Ron always does. You got like, there's other towns in addition that are nearby, or regions that are nearby. So it's like a whole little adventure area that you could insert into an existing game if you wanted. So there's like all these great encounter ideas, random charts and fixed things. I'm not going to show you too much of that in case you're not the DM. But I was very proud that I get to work on this and happy that I get to see things kind of in advance. And little known fact, what I studied in post-secondary school was to be a magazine editor. So doing these once a year is like the one time I get to use my degree as intended. And I am so old, we did literal paste up, which is you cut out the articles and you pasted them down to make a page. I mean, we had computers too. We were kind of in a transition time, so they made us learn both things. Grey Mouser is hoping they sell the book separately. I am hoping that they do as well. Even if it's just PDF, that would be cool for people to be able to, more people should be able to access all this amazing creativity. But all right, let's start looking at some of the other things. Maybe I should do the non-figure things first. There is a non-figure thing in one of these boxes. And that is this year's commemorative Pokey tool. So this is a little curled up sleeping dragon. Someone in the chat here, when he says it looks like the book should be released separately on the 15th. Well, that is excellent news. I don't know why I'm showing you the back of the blister, but I will instead show you the guy out of the book. Look at the cuteness. It's too much. I can't even. There was one super cool entry where someone had taken all of the Pokies that Reaper's ever done, at least that I'm aware of Reaper ever having done, and painted them, stuck them in quartz, and then had this really nice like wooden display thing set up for each of the corks. And it's just like, we all talk about painting these and then we never do. This is metal. Last year's was Bones USA, but this one's metal. And it tells you what it commemorates, which is ReaperCon 2023. The dragon head from last year looked like it was available on the web to me. I don't know if it said 0 and I'm just messing up now. Slayer Street said that was a super compliment. Yeah, that was one of, like, every now and then we'll be like, ooh, I want to steal that one and take it home, which the joke, which is slightly less funny now. And that was mine this year that I wanted to steal and take home. Last year's is still available. So this is last year's, which is Bones USA. Also has the year and is maybe the mama of this year's. So I'll put that one. Actually, I'm going to put this over here so I don't accidentally poke myself with it either. Then we've got Sophie's Lucky Dice. And I believe the theme here, or the idea, is that she's gone through all her sets of dice, and the ones that roll well, she's made like her little lucky dice set out of. So that's why they don't match. And I'm keeping them in the blister because as soon as I touch them, they will no longer be lucky dice. So I have that amazing power. Where am I putting that? And of course, stickers. We almost always get cool stickers that you can put on your cases or notebooks or whatever else. This was I think this is the Sigil of Barrowgate. I know. So remember when I said I read the book? That was like 3 or 4 months ago. So now I don't remember all the cool stuff I read because I'm old and my brain is going. Actually, my brain wasn't so hot before I was old. So this originally came in a little thing like this, which says brush, but that's just because it's the right size. So these are very fine needle nose pliers. And this is what the Reaper people use to take the supports off of 3D prints. And I'll show that on some 3D prints in a minute. That's right. Quindy is reminding me that Sophie's Lucky Dice are available. So if you want the luck of Sophie, and I swear I did not touch any of the packages while I was at the factory, so they should still be lucky, you can pick those up online right now. This is called a micro mesh finishing file, so it's a fine grit, like a really fine grit sandpaper essentially, and it's got foam in between so it can kind of squeeze into corners. You've seen me use some other ones. I like sanding sticks or sanding needles. And this has two separate strengths, and this is what they use to clean the rest of the little artifacts off of 3D prints. I like to scrape with a knife where I can, or use my smaller ones, but maybe I'll break that out and show that. And I think that was it for the non-miniature things other than paint. Delicious paint. And I was very involved in that this year, which is exciting for me. So at the end, I'm hoping that we'll have time and I will make swatches of the paint. Now, let's look at some miniatures. So someone in chat was mentioning that the one miniature that's definitely not going to come out is this one. And that is true. So the only way to get this is in the Barrowgate box. This is an Ed Pugh tribute miniature. Many of you are probably already aware that Ed Pugh is known for having sculpted a variety of what we call arachno assassins. And you can see the many arms, but the attachment points look pretty nice. I don't think it'll be a trial to assemble this. So Jason Wiebe sculpted this tribute, and the head is, of course, the Reaper logo, which is super cool. And then we can see the base decorations a little. So this one I haven't taken out of the package since it is like a commemorative miniature. I may or may not take it out of the package. Zachariah wisely suggests painting the body before adding the arms, speaking from personal experience. Well, thank you for taking the hit for us and determining that. We will appreciate benefiting from your experience. So this one I'm not going to take out of the package to show you. You can see all the arms down there. But the majority of these, I think almost all the others, I will be taking out of the package for you. So speaking of things where you're going to paint some stuff before you assemble it, this is the Townsfolk Puppeteer, sculpted by Jason Wiebe. And you can see the puppet show. One of the puppets is a dragon, which of course tickles my little heart. I pre-open these and then tape them up again for ease of... Oh, wait, where's my buddy? We need our buddy so that you guys know what size everything is. So I will get the Arachno Assassin briefly back so that you can see him in scale with our scale man. And then this is a puppeteer working in the town of Barrowgate. So it looks a little weird because the theater fits over it. So I would paint like this part and the leg and stuff first. And then there's a part that sticks out here and a part that goes in there, and it fits together. I mean, you saw it. I kind of had it together last night, and it just stayed in the blister that way, even though I've been moving that box around. But then the best part is right here, because this is too hilarious. Crows and Bones wishes they could have made it to the con, and we wish you could have made it to the con as well. But maybe next year. Plan for next year. So I imagine Jason, as a person who is a keeper of pugs, may have experienced this. I don't know. But it cracked me up. And just the look that he's giving him too, I also enjoyed. So that's a fun one. I mean, that's a very different kind of miniature to what you usually see. But you can imagine some stories where this guy could be an interesting NPC. Maybe he's not quite as innocuous as he looks. Maybe the dog knows something. All right, I'm going to make you guys just a little dizzy. Just ignore me, because I don't think I have things close enough to not annoy my arms. All right, there we go. Hopefully that will work. So that is the puppeteer. And then, oh, did I not? I didn't open this guy. Oh, okay, I'll open him now. This is Hollis Greyheath. There were like 4 different, normally there have been factions in the past. But this year they were individuals who were having adventures, and we get little stickers that we can put on a poster to kind of vote for who we wanted to achieve success. And I believe, if I am recalling correctly, astonishingly, that this guy did not achieve great adventuring success. So Hollis, I don't think things ended well for him. All right, I'm making just a little dizzy again so I can be more centered. But he has a friend, oops, which is this amazing hare, who is such a friend that he helps him carry stuff around. And I am like totally in love with this guy. If you were signed up to the email, I think you got an update of their adventures every day. Quinty says, I have a great track record of accidentally bringing those stickers home with me. I go about 60-40 on whether they make it to the poster, whether I give it to my husband to let him decide who he wants to put on the poster, or I come home and I'm like, oh, look, these stickers. Carrie is sad that Hollis didn't do better, and I agree. I'm like, how can you look at this guy, this little buddy, and not, how can you look at this guy and not vote for him? I mean, the others had very compelling stories as well, but look at, and his name's Verbena, or her name, I don't even know, but I'm in love with Verbena, and I'm not ashamed. Oh, I did not show you the scale of Hollis. So, apart from the Arachnocassassin, I believe these other things will come out into retail at some time or another. So here we've got, Hollis is a halfling, and he's about half the size of Sir Forescale, fittingly. I guess maybe you want to see the size of the bunny, too. Yeah, wouldn't it be great if I had just like one big piece of gray thing, but I do not. I wonder if I could find bigger fun foam somewhere. So he's a solid sized hare, although I've seen some big rabbits. When I was young, people down the street had like this giant lop-ear bunny. Like he had to be 30 pounds or something. He was a big bunny with spots, and I think he was kind of blind in one eye because he'd go outside on his yard on a leash and he'd follow you with that eye, and I thought he was just amazing. I loved him so much. And then they got a dog and they were giving away their bunny, but alas, my mother was immune to my pleas that we should have an enormous bunny come live with us. So I don't know where he went to live, but it wasn't with me. And ever since, Julie loved the little friend too. Carrie Michael Cosby gave stickers to her husband with orders to vote for Verbena the hare, and I guess her friend Hollis too. So these are drinking dwarves, and there are 4. So admittedly, I don't know if they come out in retail, if you would have all 4, or if they're going to break them out. This is not the kind of knowledge I'm given. But we will grab Sir Forescale and then look at them more closely. These are sculpted by Bobby Jackson. So this one has the beer keg with tap and all, and he is a little more serious than the rest of them. He's on a serious, important mission. But the rest of them are having a lot of fun. Let's see. Crows and Bones. There are a bunch of minis in the swag box that I must have missed previews of. A bunch of new townsfolk, I think. Do you think those will make it to retail? I do think those will make it to retail. It's the Arachno Assassin definitely will not. And I don't know. I don't think they're going to be selling the tools on an ongoing basis. But you should be able to find things like that somewhere else. So, just in case you came in a little later, I will just very quickly show. This was Hollis Greyheath and his assistant / friend Verbena, the hare. And this is a puppet theater, like a street performer type guy. And the front of the puppet theater attaches to the front of him, and then he's like a person on the back. And then we just started looking at these dwarves. So this is the one with the keg. And this one is mid-guzzle. I love the luxurious beards that these fellows have. I'm sure that they're very proud of them and maintain them carefully. This one maybe shouldn't have more of what that guy's got in the keg. He may have already had enough. He's looking a little bleary. But I love this little detail where he's got like the tassel on his hat. I also don't know if the material that these are in will change later. Okay, Quindy's got a link to the tools. See, I looked at this. I'm thinking they added more things to that tab. I'm going to go look so I don't look as dumb now. Because I did my research too soon, I guess. Last night was too soon. Yeah, now there are 5 things. So the little tweezers. And let's see, was one of those... We'll get to one of the 3D miniatures. So then our last one is a very happy toasting dwarf. I like there's all these little extra details that Bobby's put in. But it's also not... So I know some people love miniatures that are encrusted with details and designs and stuff. I like kind of the middle ground like this, where you've got a few things and you've got some clean areas where you can decide if you want to add stuff or if you just want to paint a little more quickly. So I like that. Although I see that Bobby Jackson has gone back to the not Bender approved flagstones. I told him once that these kind, it's harder to paint, for me at least, it's harder to paint these kind to look cool. If they're a bit bigger, like on those guys, you have more options of what you can do with them, but they still paint up fine if you just want to. Okay, well that dwarf I'll get later. If you just want to do dry brushing and washing. So this one is super fun. The Brawl, also by Bobby Jackson. There are 4 halflings here. We will look at it out of the package momentarily because I happen to have another one. Fighting, I assume, a half orc, maybe a full orc. I don't know. I'm not terribly good at my identification of humanoids and creature types. But I have it out of the package here because I may have swiped one when I was walking around the factory. But now we can test those tweezers. That dwarf went on an adventure. He did. He's going to find some extremely large and deadly lint monsters, probably, from Corbin's hair. So the idea is that you can use these to grab these little struts, which probably is better than the way I've been doing it, which is just trying to get in there with a knife. But if you only want to use a knife, well, sometimes you can just kind of flick them off even. But I have to admit, I was skeptical at first, but I feel like these things do a good job of pulling off this. So these are supports that the machine needs to print it out. But you'll notice this is one miniature. This is one miniature. You don't have to glue anything together, which for the glue challenge amongst us is a joy. There are 5 guys in an extremely, everybody's over everybody pose. You can only do this as a 3D print. You would have to chop this up a lot to do it in a traditional mold. It's Bobby Jackson's name, but you can, I'm trying to give you a good close look so you can see the surface is not full of striations and nonsense and whatnot. These are very close to, like, close enough that if you gave me a quiz to the printed masters that Reaper will sometimes send me for painting, which are lovely to work on, partly because you can scrape them, and there are no mold lines. I don't know if I've ever mentioned, but I don't love mold lines. In fact, long have been the years that I have wished that there was a cure for mold lines in our hobby. And apparently, now I am living in the future. I'm very excited about it. So I think this is just super fun. I mean, I love the dynamic posing and the feistiness of the halflings, which are among Bobby's favorite characters to depict. So I'm sure that he enjoyed doing that. Then the second box. Oh, did I put Sir Forescale next to that? Let's make sure we can see. So you can see that that is quite a beefy orc / half orc and diminutive little halfling guys. Who is next? This is the Riverboat Pilot by Jean Van Horn. And I definitely had to take this one out of the package because he was facing backwards, so I didn't get to enjoy. He's also a dwarf. So he's throwing back a beer. He could hang out with the drinking ones. And his little monkey friend has also picked up some bad habits and is throwing back a beer. He's got some flamboyant trousers on. A little toque. So he's super fun. You can see the scale of his little monkey friend, too. I know, I love the monkey Quinty. It's so fun. I mean, you shouldn't give beer to your monkey, but it's a fantasy world, so I'm going to enjoy it. It's just like, I don't personally think you should drive with your dog in such a way that it can put its head out the window. But I never stop feeling happy when I see a dog that's just having so much fun putting their head out the window and getting the wind in their ears and everything. But I have cats, and they love to drive. No. Grey Mustard said there are people out there that love mold lines. I have trouble believing that is true. But, I mean, I guess you have to pick your poison. What bothers you more, the artifacts from 3D printing or mold lines? I think one of the advantages of the little artifacts is that they are more randomly placed. Because, you know, if you make a mold line into a scar or whatever, anyone who knows how mold line works now, oh, well, that used to be a mold line. Speaking of dogs, did I meet Anne's puppy? Very briefly, she was very excitable. The first time I held my hand out to her, I'm not sure what I'd been doing, but she didn't like how I smelled. I was trying to pet her, and she wanted none of it. The second time I did get to pet her at least, but she was getting very tuckered out. So Anne was taking her upstairs to have a lie down. Grey Mustard, we totally endorse sarcasm here. Bring it. Bryce says, no beer for kitties either. Kitties are less tempted to drink beer. I've met dogs who will drink beer, but kitties don't like it bubbles up their nose, so that helps them avoid the beer and anything that smells super weird. I'm sure there's some beer drinking cat out there, because there's something that loves everything out there. Kiki's a little head shy with new people. Okay, because I was kind of like, what did I do? I did have an allergic reaction while I was at the con, which was weird. I have allergies, but I don't get them a lot, and my whole face just went. So of course, the one time that I didn't bring antihistamines, because I'm like, oh, I don't hardly need those anymore. I did have my cream, but after that, I was like, well, I guess I better only use my soap and stuff. But it also is the first time I've ever had more than like just a little tiny bit of red wine. And I know that sometimes people have problems with red wine. So I'm not sure if it was that. I guess I could test it. Don't know if that sounds fun. This is a passed out orc, half orc. You can have a little too much fun at the pub. But I think you could very easily cut the rest of the bottle off and add a sword blade there if you needed a victim of a tragedy for a diorama. Because there's a lot of poses that it is hard to get. Like seated people and lying down people. It's hard to find a lot of miniatures that do that. So they're handy to have for dioramas. But there are a lot of nice details here as well. I like the outfit. And then it's slightly flattened on the back because the point is to put it on the ground. And that was sculpted by Julie Guthrie, who is here with us today in chat. Bryce always has antihistamines in his bag, which is probably a good plan. Maybe I should look into it. They're very tiny pills. But so if you saw me and I looked all weird and red, that was, but I mean, I look kind of red on a regular day, but it was a lot on Saturday morning. I'm like, what? And I had to use my cream for a while, but that is why I have the cream. I'm allergic to aloe vera, so it could also have been possible that there was aloe vera in the hand soap. My hands can handle it, but if I get very much on my face, sometimes it. But it was so widespread that I feel like that wasn't it. These are Gambling Dwarves, also by Bobby Jackson. So they've gone behind the pub or something. No, let's not start with him. We'll give you sort of 4 scale with this guy who's waiting to see what's going to happen with the dice. He's got some coins that he's staked in the venture on the ground. You got a nice little ponytail. And then this one is about to roll the dice, and you can, I mean, the dice have pips and everything. It's great. Very serious about it. Hunkered down. Very intense. And then the third one is also hunkered down. Maybe he doesn't trust how his friend rolls. I don't know. He's got to keep a close eye on it. But that's fun. And another one of those like kind of character types and poses that you don't see as much and could be very useful for dioramas and things. I mean, I say theoretically since I go around making so many dioramas. Let's see. The Bombshell Award presenter year before last, I think it was, had a bit too much to drink. It happens. It happens on a Saturday night. Warlord miniatures. Those are not Jason Wiebe. The dwarves this year, shockingly, I know, Jason Wiebe did a normal human person. Well, not that dwarves are unnormal, but Jason Wiebe did a human person and Bobby Jackson did dwarves. Oh, the bases fit together for mini dioramas. See, Zachariah is always here with the news flashes of things that I don't notice. That's great. Where did they go? I just had those guys. There they are. Let's see. I didn't even think about that. I'm so good at doing these kinds of puzzles too. Let's find out. But yes, now that you see the shape of the bases, it makes sense. No, that's not going to be it. Here, you guys can have a nice laugh while you wait for me to figure this out. That looks like it fits together. And then their buddy goes in there. It's very intense. But I will say one of the things I think is easiest to sculpt is wood grain. So if you wanted to spread them out a little, you just get a slightly dull X-Acto knife and you can. Oh look, comes free with Corbin hair. Your copy probably won't come with Corbin hair. So Reaper Miniatures just posted in the chat about an upcoming Kickstarter for the the Dungeon Dwellers role-playing game, which is what they've been working on, and the world that the source book was from can work with that. Scam if it doesn't have Corbin hair. He does have enough hair for everyone to get their own. I didn't bring all the hair to Reaper so they could package them that way, but he totally has enough hair for everyone to get their own. Many, many blisters could be filled with Corbin hair. So the Dungeon Dwellers role-playing game is what Joseph Wolf and Ron have been working on for a few years now, and they're putting the polishing touches on it so you can go sign up to get notified when the Kickstarter goes live. I feel confident that someone will probably mention it on a Reaper Twitch stream, so don't worry about forgetting. This is a flirty wench who is one of those people in a seating position that is fairly rare that I've spoken about. And Julie sculpted this with very lovely hair and a nice ribbon too. And you can see how Julie's really paid attention to how the fabric would behave both over the shapes of her body and the shape of her barrel that she's sitting on. And she's maybe a little in the sauce because she's about to tip her glass a bit. Or maybe she's just so amused by the antics of the dwarves around her. So yeah, you pretty much have a whole pub at this point. Are there figures in the Kickstarter? I meant to ask Ron questions about the Kickstarter, and then I totally didn't. So I probably know less than you guys do, because I haven't been keeping up with the Twitch streams and whatnot. So maybe Quindy. Quindy says yes, there are figures, because Quindy knows many things more than I do. So this is a bouncer with clearly a patron who has been misbehaving himself. This is also... No, this is sculpted by Bob, not Julie. Although they trade them back and forth across the desk, is my understanding. So there may be a little Julie in there somewhere. We don't know. She also has great hair. Bryce says there are 4 exclusive figures for the set that will not be sold elsewhere. So this Kickstarter will be your one chance to get these 4 exclusive figures. Have they shown those yet? The figures are very cool, so they have shown them. Oh, this one did not get traded across the table. Okay. Bob kept this one all to himself because she's super fun. All right, I believe that is all the figures. I will momentarily tip the paint out, but I do have other figures I'm going to show you, so I'm not going to switch over to paint yet. So these are the paints. And so, you guys know, they had them sitting out on a table at ReaperCon. Okay, so people who are observant and not overtired got to see them at ReaperCon, and I didn't. There's a link to the Kickstarter announcement stream that Quindy has just popped into the chat. So, after we're done, I'll come into the video on demand. So if you missed some of the figures at the beginning, you can do the same thing after the stream ends. It'll be up on Twitch for a couple weeks, and Quindy will get it on YouTube within a few days. And I can click this link and watch the video. So it's funny, we do streams at ReaperCon. I participated in one with Ron where basically we went through the box. But you can't really hear them at ReaperCon because the room is so loud. Oh, that is a YouTube link that Quindy's sharing. But you'll have to come into the chat of this stream to get that link. Or you can just go over to YouTube. And do some searching. So the streams are there, but you can't hear them when you're there. So you actually don't always know what was on a stream, even though you're at the con. So you guys get to know some stuff that we don't. Gel Chip ran out of time this year to get over to Artist Alley. Yeah, there's just never enough time. I think this may have been my fewest minutes in the dealer hall. I think I had a 9.5 minutes in the dealer hall. Just said hi to some people, looked at some stuff, and went back to sit at my desk. So you all know that I have many paints. I'm pretty sure that I have all but 2 paints that Reaper has ever made. I think those were paints for the first PaizoCon, or it was one of the PaizoCons. There were 2 paints. I didn't go to PaizoCon because it's very far away, and so I don't have those ones, but I'm pretty sure that's it that I don't have. So I'm almost in a way like a historical keeper of the paints. And on occasion, Reaper has even asked me to bring a bottle along with me because it's easier. If you're trying to match a paint, it's actually easier to do it to a liquid sample than to a dried sample. So last year, I think it was the year before, they wanted to do pumpkin orange again. And they couldn't find their sample, so I brought mine. So usually I just suggest ideas. I kind of collect if I see people in chat saying, oh, I wish I had this, or I wish I had that. Well, I used to love this one, or that there's that one ReaperCon paint that I always use. I try to make notes if I see the same names coming up a lot. Or if I happen to notice, hey, there's we don't have a paint in this color area, and we could really use one. We don't have something to highlight these colors. So I try to make notes of that. And so I've always contributed those. Back when Anne was there, I would just send her an email now and then saying, hey, these are colors that people have wished they had, or whatever. But this year, Ron is like, all right, please suggest some colors. So I came up with, I don't know, 25 or 30 colors, and sent it to them and let them do the short list. I also suggested some of the names because I just finished editing the book, and I was like, oh, well, it's nice to be thematic, so here's some name suggestions. Like the Red Fork River has jasper rocks all along it, so a reddish color could be Red Fork jasper, stuff like that. So I'm going to swatch these, but not while I have my little thingy here. I'll put those to the side and show you a few more things. So these are the paints I've been most involved in. I didn't mix them or anything. We had to come up with kind of a mutual color reference thing because I was doing this at a distance. So I know these colors, and yet also it's kind of the first time I'm getting to see them. There was another paint, a question here. So in the video about the Dungeon Dwellers role-playing game, you can see the starter set and hear all the info from Ron and Joseph Wolf, who's writing it, on that stream. Let's see. Jelchip is asking if Morning After Blue is discontinued. I do believe that was a convention special color, so it isn't in the regular paint line, and I don't think that they have additional bottles of it anymore. I mean, there's the kind of a standing offer. If you want to order 10 bottles of something, you can contact Reaper directly, and they'll make you things that are out of production even. So I think that would apply to that. Not 100% sure. It applies to the paints that got canceled a couple years ago, for sure. But I suspect if they have the recipe for a special edition paint, that they would be willing to make it. Anything that's 9.6 is for sure a paint that was done for a con or some other special event. The numbering structure has moved on, and these are not 9.6s, so I don't know what to tell you about that. But that used to be the easy guide to, is this paint in regular production, or has it ever been in regular production? So let's show you a few more things before we get to the paint. We'll start with this guy. So this is Mako the Tiki Shark. This was sculpted by Jason Wiebe and donated to Reaper because sales of this are going to benefit victims of the Maui wildfires. So you can get this on Reaper right now. I'm sure Quindy's going to pop a link into the chat. And $7.50 of each sale goes to the fundraising effort. So I will probably work on this guy next stream, is what I was thinking. He's just so fun, and I like to, support the fundraising efforts. So I was thinking that he might be a nice one to work on next stream. So I wanted to show you him, and then also currently available is I want to say Ryle Rainfeather. Someone will correct me. She's also on the front page. So this is the miniature of the month. The miniature of the month is like the one you'll get as a free gift with a minimum purchase, or you can just go buy one. And I love bards, and I love girls in pretty dresses, so I snagged a couple of these. Maybe I can paint one of these on stream if you have some. Rain Heather. There we go. And the link to Mako is up there. She's also a 3D print, so I get my little tweezers and pull that off if I want it. But I think she's just awesome. Did I show her with our buddy? There she is with our buddy. It's from 4Scale. And there's a link to Rael is up now. And I'm sparing you all. So I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm totally obsessed. And my husband is also totally obsessed. And we're just super into that. So I could be. I believe Mako is on a boat to get to the UK. So this is very recent. Like, I think this happened just before ReaperCon, that Jason finished the sculpt and gave it to Reaper, and they started 3D printing it. And I think I saw someone ask that question on the Facebook or something, and they said that they're sending some to the UK, but it is not there yet. But it is coming. So these figures that I'm going to show you now were in the swag bag, which is sold out, but they're figures that I think, based on what's on sale from last year, that will come up for sale eventually, if not in the very near future. So this is this year's Sophie. Every year Sophie likes to dress very thematically to go with the convention. Here she is with her 4 scale. And I like how the wings are done because they attach not only in the back slot, but they also scooch up on her hood there. So you're going to have a nice solid attachment point. I mean, it's plastic. It's not as terrifying as the metal was, but it's still nice to have good solid attachments. There's even a hole in thingy structure. I don't. You guys have seen me assemble stuff, so let's not watch that anymore. I'm sure it's very amusing. So she's like a druid, I believe, this year. Very nature-y. She's got a little bird. I like the details on that. And she also has a friend who's super awesome, and I think definitely is gonna have a chat with Verbena about whether, all of their union rights as haulers are being respected. So this is Otley, the otter, who I just love Otley so much. Quindy says, it looks like the Sophie should make it to the store for individual purchase tomorrow. Look at that. I'm just very slightly ahead of the game this time. So yes, they usually, since they make the figures, they can sell extras of those. Another figure that was in the swag bag was Creed Bloodbeard, and he's a dungeon dweller, so he's not even directly connected to the convention, so I would imagine that he will come out on his own. Again, this is nice as a 3D print. I don't have to try to glue those arms on, and you just saw me struggling with wings, so you can imagine that as a relief to me. He's a big beefy boy. He does not miss arm or leg day, and he is sculpted by the very busy Mr. Jackson. So I like that one. Well, I like them all, really. And the Reapercon Mouseling for this year is actually kind of a diorama set. Creed should also be in the store tomorrow. Look at Quindy knows everything. This is why we love Quindy and why she should definitely have been added to the Reaper Hall of Fame. So there the Mouselings are. This is like a Mouseling hero, be a town guard or something like that. Light is very important in Barrowgate. You do not want to be in the dark. And then this is a rat wraith. And this is, for a cartoony guy, he is scary. I mean, I was very impressed. If I'd had a chance, I was gonna, sometimes we sit at our desks and paint on Artist Alley, and I was like, oh, I should paint the creepy wraith guy. But then that is not how that happened. Quindy says the Mouselings should be out on the 30th and that she loves them so much. And there's a lot of diorama possibilities here with these guys. And then you can bring them to Reapercon and try to win the Mouseling Award, which is one of the best trophies ever. I'm very sad that I don't have one of those because it is just a phenomenally amazing trophy. And then the last miniature, I believe, unless I'm forgetting something, that was in the swag bag is the Ed Pugh Tribute by Dark Sword Miniatures. This one I know is already up on the website. So what happened is Jim Ludwig from Dark Sword Reaper have always had a great relationship. He doesn't come every year, but he often comes to ReaperCon. He donates a figure to the swag bag. He sponsors special awards in the contest with generous prizes and really cool trophies. So he was, of course, like many of us, very upset about Ed's passing, and he asked Tom Meyer, the sculptor, to do a likeness of Ed. Okay, and now I am throwing things on the ground again. I will be back. I can see this one. Okay, I can see the dwarf, but he is having an adventure. He has gone further than I can go. So this is what he's summoning. Well, partly continued over here. There's like just the start of a guy. He's going to summon a bunch of them. So if you've met Ed, you can probably see even on my camera here that this is an excellent likeness. I believe Jim said that Tom Meyer said Ed had a very distinctive facial bone structure, so that he was someone that you could sculpt a likeness of, even in teeny tiny. Here is our buddy for scale. And this is a marvelous miniature. I have one in the blister too, because my husband goes to ReaperCon as well, so I opened the one in my swag bag, but kept the one from his swag bag commemoratively. So anyway, Jim was going to do this as a Darksword piece, but as the project progressed, he got to feeling like it should be made in Texas, and it should be made in metal if possible, given the long history of Ed and Reaper and everything. And so it came to pass. I don't know if this will be in permanent production. I don't see why it wouldn't be. But if you love this, I would go grab one now, just in case, because this is knowledge that I am not privileged to have. And then there were 3 paints that were in the swag bag. And I would expect if there are any extras of these that they will go up at some point in the next few weeks. And these are all metallics. So it's this Tomb Treasure. If you have want a bluish steel look, or you have one of the blue metallics, that one is something you can use as a highlight. Ghost veins are like this really cool thing in the Barrowgate stories. It's like this special material, and you're required to put them up. They're like lightning veins, but they're supposed to keep the spooks away. So we came up with this nifty color for that. And raven feathers, we were trying to come up with something kind of iridescent. So I'll probably paint those out last because they're metallics and the flakes will get in the water. But I do want to paint those out. Let's see where we are time-wise. Yes, there should be much time for swatching. So Daka Flocka Flame, just because the last few things I showed were in the swag bag, not in the Barrowgate box. But you can see the list of things that are in the Barrowgate box on the site, and then I just showed you them. So all the gambling dwarves, the drinking dwarves, the patron sitting on a barrel, the bouncer ejecting a rowdy patron, the arachno assassin, the riverboat captain, the puppeteer. I think that's... What did I forget? Oh, Hollis Greyheath and his buddy Verbena. I think is the... And the passed out orc. Alright, so I will take down the things I don't want to get paint on and get out my swatch cards. And we get to see what these awesome colors are. So I will hold these up as I do it. And then at the end, if they don't dry by the end, I'll show them next week. I'll try and take a picture as well. I'm probably going to put a video up on my YouTube channel where I did an unboxing and looked at some stuff last night, because I was like, well, if I have to open these anyway. Now Quindy's sharing an Ask Reaper Anything form in the chat. So if you have questions, because I keep saying I don't know anything. Quindy says the triad should go up on the 30th. How do you know all this stuff, Quindy? I looked at the website. Apparently I didn't look very well. So yeah, I've seen pictures of the raven feather, like we talked about it, and then we exchanged pictures because that, metallics are a unique thing. That was harder to do a color reference on than matte paints. Or standard colors, however you want to call it. So if you haven't been here before, swatches are where you paint out samples of your color so that you can see what it really looks like. I mean, the bottle's clear, we can see a lot, but it's never quite the same. Quindy in the preview section. I swear I looked for the preview section. All right. Well, I'm just not always the world's most observant person. So this is Red Folk Jasper. And when I make swatches, I like to do an additional little thing, which is, so start with kind of full strength out of the bottle. But then I like to glaze a lot. I like to know the kind of the undertone of things. So I'll go get some water and then thin it out a little so that I can see what it looks like thin down. So like this would be a great color for doing, red noses or blush on some of those people who've had a little too much to drink, maybe. As well as the intended purpose of bricks and red tile and ceramic stuff, things like that. I'm just getting out a little paper towel that I think will assist me. Put my mouse over there. I mean, honestly, I might even use this as a shade for some skin tones, if you've got a really ready person. And then we've got more vein. This is one of the families that controls the politics of Barrowgate, but I read the words, so I don't necessarily know how to say the words. I am using cheap watercolor paper. This is Canson XL watercolor paper. It's nice because it doesn't ripple, but even, I don't have my normal stuff over here. Even index card will help. You can paint on like computer paper, but doing the watery part, the computer paper won't like that as much, and it'll definitely buckle and get all wavy. Index card buckles a little, but not intolerably so. And this is another color that if you wanted to have like a little more of a vibrant skin or just add touches, this is the kind of color I like to do that sort of thing with. Zachariah M. When I'm using computer paper, I prime it first so it will behave like a primed miniature. I've primed index card. They curled a little for a similar reason. Paper, this is definitely not the same as painting on a miniature. This thin down thing is easier to do on paper. So to see, kind of what the undertone would be for a glaze, which is probably not going to be, these paints are somewhat desaturated and most of them probably have some white in it. But if you take a color like something, one of the blacks is really, if you thin it down, it's like really bright, intense blue. And you wouldn't notice that if you just painted it out full strength. So that's why I like to do both. So some paints it matters more for than other paints. Nightmare Black. Yes, thank you, Gel Tip. Zachariah M. Yes, but I use index cards and watercolor paper for swatches. Yes, so if you're practicing freehand or something, that is an excellent tip. Doing it on paper, it's not going to be the same because the paper is absorbent. So you need to prime the paper or use plastic bases or, miniatures that you aren't going to paint, or just the lids off of yogurt containers. Something that is a non-porous surface. And if you can prime it, if you prime your miniatures, use the same primer so you know how it behaves on that. But that's one of the mistakes that I made when I was starting to try and practice freehand stuff. I'd be like, oh, it looks terrible. Well, it's like it's the paper, it spreads out on the paper and it feathers out. And it's not the same as painting on a non-porous surface at all. No. Enestrev Rose. The Enestrevs are another one of those families. Do I remember the origin of all of the names? Quindy has a mixed media sketchbook that's made to handle watercolor for swatches. Yeah, if you like to have things in a book, that's an excellent way to go. Mixed media paper is supposed to be able to handle wet and dry. This watercolor paper actually does come in a sketchbook. But it has, the pages are detachable. So you have the flexibility of doing something like this or collecting everything in a book. But in a much earlier episode, like if you go to the Weeper's YouTube channel and look for the Beyond the Kit playlist, and go back to like the first 6 months or so, I did 1 or 2 shows about swatching where I shared some examples of paper and some other options and talked about doing this in more detail. So I mean, I'm happy to talk about it now because I'm sure we may have viewers that weren't here then. But since I didn't prep for this specifically, you may get more information out of that other one. And maybe I'll do another Here's How I Do Swatches episode. Because what I actually ended up doing, after all of the many options that I considered in many attempts, I do my swatches on the bottles now. So I will be swatching all of these bottles to have this, because there's advantages and disadvantages to any system you're going to pick. You just have to figure out what works for you. Doing it on paper like this, you know, I can flip through a book and see a lot of colors at a time. Making it little individual pieces of paper means I can take those pieces of paper and check on a color scheme. I can go, okay, I got this one, and this one. And, oh, that blue doesn't work. Let me grab another blue. It's really nice for, you know, testing out a paint scheme without having to actually get out your paint and test out a paint scheme with liquid paint. These give me some of that flexibility, but they're on the container of the thing that has, you know, this is the thing. I can see the color. For me, it worked. And I had purchased a whole bunch of things to do it a different way. And then, you know, in the discussion of the first swatch episode, somebody asked about that. And I'm like, well, that's way better than my idea. For me, again, I think this is, I've seen people do the individual squares, and you can put them in like magic card, or they make even smaller sleeves. You can put them in sleeves if you need to protect them. You can put them in a binder that has the sleeves. You can put a hole in it and put like a 3-ring, well, not a 3-ring, but, you know, one of those binder clips. So you can take it with you. So if you have a subset of paints that you take with you to like paint day, or you're taking on vacation, you can just grab those cards. That's one of the advantages of doing it individually instead of in a book. You can just grab those cards and throw them in with the paints. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I'm pretty sure I have at least 800 paints, and I really genuinely did this on all of them. Yes, it took a hot minute, and I have zero regrets. It is one of the most helpful hobby things that I have ever done. I wish I had, because I've been meaning to do swatches for years. I have some primed index cards that I was going to do swatches on. I have some non-primed index cards that I started to do swatches on. I bought these, you can get like plastic nails on a stick that is what nail salons use to do their swatches, essentially, because they'll have like, you know, 40 colors of pink, and how does the client know which one they want? Because it's the same problem with, does it look the same in the bottle? Does it look the same wet as dry? So they paint out the nail polish on these nails, and then you can just fan them out and say, okay, which pink? And I bought a bunch of those. They have holes on the end, so you can put those binder things on it. And I think that's an excellent solution, and it would be great for doing the color composition stuff. But for me, this just ended up, doing it on the labels ended up being the way that worked best for me. So you don't have to overcomplicate it. Doing it at all is better than not at all. But if you can, take a minute and think about, okay, how would I get the most use out of this project? Because even if you only have 40 paints, that's still going to take you a minute. Gel Tip is wondering if you can use the tabs they use for plants and herbs, like the ones they stick in the ground and it says this is a begonia and you should water it every whatever. You probably have to prime it. I would prime most plastic. I wasn't going to prime the nails because partly what I was doing is I was putting multiple coats on. So I'd put like the first coat on the entire surface and the second coat on 3/4 of the surface, just to kind of have a measure of the transparency. I ended up doing that a different way. Let's see, that one isn't the... Yeah, I ended up doing it a different way on the bottle swatches. I'll put a stroke of paint like straight out of the bottle just down here over these numbers. So that gives me an idea of how transparent and opaque it is. Do I have any paints that are not, you know, black? Because that's what's right over there is black. Yes, I do. All right. So these are the super washes. They are meant to be somewhat transparent, and you can see that this is true. So I try to get this swatch like as full opacity, show the color as possible. And then this one I'll do straight, straight out of the bottle, one stroke. And then this, so here I'm just using water to thin them down because labels can be a little water repellent. I use brush on sealer, which is kind of like medium, to thin it out to do it here. And I make sure that it's over some text or the UPC code or something so that I can kind of see. So in an ideal world, if you were swatching watercolors or something else, you would paint a line here over the transparent section, or maybe here. You paint it here, actually. So you get an idea of how opaque the paints are out of the bottle. But I think they look nicer this way. Let's see, what have I missed in the chat? Because you guys are excited about swatches. Babatuk, it's absolutely not ideal, but I wiped a bit on the label when I inevitably got paint on my hand from adding extra agitators. That is still a swatch, and it sounds great. Quindy says, I'm pretty sure I have 100 billion paints. I don't know, we could do a paint off. I have like a whole wall. It's bad, it's bad. And is there more paint coming? Yes, yes. There was a Kickstarter, and my curiosity was too vast, and I couldn't help myself. Pendrake, I'm surprised you don't lay down a black stripe so you can see how they'd behave trying to cover black prime minis. Well, these I want you to see the color. So these I'm doing for you. I rarely paint on black. I usually paint on gray. So even the white isn't exactly what it looks like. But I will also just paint something to full opacity if I want full opacity. So I will do 7 coats if it takes 7 coats to achieve full opacity, which is one of the reasons my primer coat mainly matters for me to see things better rather than making opaque coats lay down. Now, speed painted miniatures, painted up from dark, am I, maybe, maybe not. But if you're really serious about the swatching, you might want to have like a white, gray, and black stripes on your things or some other way that you can see how it behaves on the different colors, because some colors are going to look nicer if you paint them over a white undercoat. Some are going to look nicer on a dark undercoat, like metallics look nicer on a dark undercoat usually. And you could do that. So they make acrylic paint pens. You could get like Posca pens or something like that and make stripes with each color if you wanted. I don't have any Posca pens like here. But these ones, I usually take a photo and I send them to Reaper to add to the website and stuff like that. And I just kind of like them to look pretty. So mine I do on the bottle, and I work with what's on the label. The paper ones I just kind of like to look pretty. Wendy says, more paint. I know. So I managed to tame I have to have all the miniatures monster, because at some point it just became unsustainable. Like even having all the Reaper miniatures is probably not sustainable for my house, at least. But the paint thing is way harder for me to resist new paint. Like I have a problem. I don't know what it is. Artist paint, I'm like, okay, I have 7 colors, I'm good to go. I mean, not saying like I'll never buy another one, but for some miniature paints, I'm like, no, I need literally all of the colors. Zachary I only have all the Reaper paints plus 2 file cabinets worth of paint, so I'd lose. Well, and a wall of them, but I'd still lose. I need to catch up. No, you may beat me out. So I have all the Reaper paints except 2. All of the original release of the Privateer press paints. I didn't realize they'd done an expansion to their original set. And then I got the End Paints Kickstarter from Nocturna a while back, and there's some cool colors in there. And then I ordered, I don't even remember what they're called now. There were some German guys, I think, they had a mixture of single pigment artist colors and then convenience colors, and it was for miniature painting. So I went in that recently. Oh, well, and I have the Chimera colors. And then I have artist paints, but we're not counting those exactly. Because don't tell my husband. No, my husband actually completely knows how bad it is, and yet he still enables me. I do not know why, but he does. Is it only Reaper paint you're talking about? No, not at all. There are some kinds of paint I don't like the plasticky ones as much. Like one kind of acrylic paint has a vinyl base and the other kind has a acrylic base, and one of them I like working with better than the other. So whatever Viejo uses is the one I don't like. I don't have a lot of Viejos, but I did get these because I enjoyed the Reaper super washes so much. And I don't mind mixing colors, but even with mixing, there were still some colors that were harder to do. And I've fooled myself into saying that I'm going to paint some of our board games. But, yeah. Let's see. Babatuk does not know how many paints they have, other than knowing it's not enough, which I don't... Is there anyone in the chat who thinks they have too many paints? Could there really be anyone in my stream who believes they have too many paints? I very much doubt it. It's okay if you do. I mean, I don't mind minimalism. I once did a stream on the only, 20 colors you need. But that stream had taken me a long time to get to because people would ask me that question all the time. And it's like, if you can only buy 20 colors, which would they be? And it'd be like, well, that is not how I do it. So I had to study and think about that for a few years. Zachariah still has a few of their 1990 GW paint pots, the round ones. So the kind that didn't go dry in the pot if you stop looking at them for 5 minutes. The twist off ones, not the flip up ones. They were made by Coat d'Arms originally, which I think Coat d'Arms is still selling paints, right? Zachariah does not know how they got so many Viejo paints. I thought all I had were the metallics. I do like their air metallics. And I need to go replace some of mine because when I was doing my paint maintenance last time, some of them had not survived. And metallics are kind of the worst for that. You do need to check on your metallics frequently because I think the flake, because it's heavier, it'll go out of the suspension and then that throws off the ratio of everything else. I mean, they'll sometimes start to separate even out on the palette. So what do we got here? Meadowlark Gold. Meadowlark was a business, I think. I knew what these all were at the time. Babatuk needs satin paints. I'm very much, it's either got to be metallic or matte. I'll just use finishes in between. But I do know there are painters who use something like a satin. If you want something to look more leathery, you use a satin paint. So you get a little bit of that sheen of the material. So I know that this looks kind of eye searing, and that's sort of the point. But when I was looking through the paints, we did not have... There were a few yellows that hadn't really been in the range already, and I'm like, I don't even know how it's possible, Ron, but I really think that we need these colors. It doesn't look as eye searing on my screen, but this is some in-your-face yellow right there. My chat is just hopping today. The way I know I have too many paints is because I have unopened ones, says Jill Tip. Okay, so I'm just talking about the paints that are in this room. There's also a tub of my backup stash of paints. Nobody tell Bug Lips about my backup stash of my very favorite colors and stuff. So when something's going to get discontinued, I will stock up and put it in the stash. Coat d'Arms still sells the paints. It's great if you want one of those original colors. And I guess it's pretty good if they still sell them in a better container too. Zachariah is about to try out the entire Turbo Dork line once the paycheck comes through. Are those the color shimmer ones? Because I don't have any of those, and it pains me sometimes that I don't have any of those. Grey Mouser has Reaper, Viejo, both model and game. But do you have the new game? Because they just made a whole new line. The Viejo Whiz Kids, Games Workshop, Old Games Workshop, Hexbase, Speed Paints, and Army Painter Whiz Kids. So what he means is the Dungeons and Dragons license for paints was Whiz Kids has it, but first they had Army Painter making the paints, and now they have Viejo making the paints. And it's completely different paint names and everything. So they had to come up with all the names of the creatures again. which seems a little weird to me, but I have no idea what went down, industry-wise there. I'm very curious, but I have no idea what went down. Actually, that does remind me of something I was going to share with you guys. That I have to share in pictures. I don't have, because what I had was a prototype. So I had this at the con. If you came by my desk, you might have seen these cardboard boxes. So they have like a clear plastic view window, and then inside they have like a clear plastic tray for the paints, which are slightly smaller than the existing Reaper paints, but otherwise it's everything that was already in the kits. But they're in these cardboard boxes now, or they will be. They're not out yet that way. So Ron showed me those, and I said, can I put them out on my desk? And then I do have a slightly... That picture was actually taken from my husband's Facebook, because I did not take a picture of my own desk. So this does not look like a 3D box for some reason. You can just barely see the shadow there. But it is the box from the previous picture sitting on top of the Barrowgate box. And so that's a slightly better resolution look at what the new paint sets will look like. Which I think it's a very nice presentation. And I had one person said the kind of a strange thing to me, but I get the psychology. They have a paint club at their store, and they try to work a lot with the new painters, and they'll find that people will be really reluctant to buy the plastic box cases. They're like, that's too fancy. I'm not good enough to get the plastic box cases. And I was like, well, it does say learn to paint right on it. It's for you. So if there are some people that having paper versions helps, I'm all for it. It's probably nicer for shipping and stuff too. This is the Lamplighters yellow. The Lamplighters Guild. So there are like streetlights and stuff in Barrowgate, and the Lamplighters Guild are responsible for lighting those at dark so that the ghosties don't get you. So that's a nice, like, warm candlelight yellow that has a piece of lint in it. And Argot. This is another one of the families. And this is a yellow that it's kind of like one that I've been missing for a long time. Like way back in the day, there was this sandy yellow. So everyone likes sandy brown, or I think there was sandy tan. So I think those were the three. But I loved this one, and I like it for something that might seem weird, but I use this with walnut brown and then intense brown. I use this as the highlight for brunettes. So it goes just a little kind of pinky ready, but it doesn't intensify the color too much. So that was my secret brunette recipe for a long time. And Anne was like, you should just be able to mix that with this, and this. And she said like 4 different things. And especially at the time, I was like, no, I cannot. So when you've got to highlight things that aren't super yellow, you need like a less intense yellow. And there it is. Oh, geez. The paint conversation continues. I gotta scroll back a little bit here. Coat D'Arms isn't technically the manufacturer, if I recall correctly, but I think Foundry Paints and P3 have the same one, says Babatuk. Zachariah is starting to collect the Chimera paints as well. I need to break out the ultramarine blue because I was waiting for that, because the real ultramarine PB29 pigment is not commonly used in most of the major miniature paint lines, and is my very favorite blue. Grey Muster also has some oil paints for oil washes and lots of craft paints. Well, I'm not talking about my artist paint, because then that's going to turn into a whole other realm of embarrassment. Let's see. Zachariah is confirming that the Turbo Dark are the color shifting ones, and bought the core set of Chimera plus one of the expansions at the con. Oh, see, my run through the dealer hall was so fast I didn't even see that those were there. Crows and Bones spreadsheet says they have 486 paints from various brands. The bulk of it is Reaper. that does not count the duplicate backups. Yeah, I don't count my duplicate backups either. In Viejo, painting instructions were much better. Okay, so the sets that WizKids has for the Dungeons and Dragons, some of them are learn to paint type things, and I don't know how they do it in the WizKids ones, or the Viejo ones, but I remember the Army Painter one. It was like, well, here's a link to the thing, and I think there was like a video and they kind of explained it. But yeah, I agree. The explanation was a little like I would have liked a little more if I was a new person. So I'm happy to hear that the Viejo instructions are a little better. Now I'm curious, just on the basis of someone who writes instructions sometimes. Grey Moser does not use Army Painter except speed paints. Quinny says this is a lovely sunset set of swatches. Yeah, and the blues may kind of fit in with that. So I guess the green will just be a plant that's in the sunset. Maybe they'd like them better if the pistol cases were clear instead of black cases. I don't know if you could make that plastic in clear. I think it's a different kind of plastic that they make in clear. Grandmaster had to glue the paint holder things into the boxes. Boxes hold more paints than for the getting started. Quinny loves the Chimera paints. The Chimera set has a mummy brown shade, according to Anne. Mummy brown hue. Yes, I'm sure Chimera did not manage to dig up some mummies to make actual mummy brown. Mummy blue is a totally different color. Scale 75 USA carries Chimera paints. So that's what booth it was at. Daka Flocka Flame needs to get better about organizing their paints. Yeah, when I put them up on the wall, I came up with a scheme, and it worked for finding paints, but it didn't work for putting paints away. So I've been reworking my system a little bit. I'm hoping it works a little better. I still have to do brown, which is like a lot. It's a lot. So I still have to do brown, skin tone, metallics, and I feel like there's something else. No, I did blue. I did most of the major colors first. Grey Mouser, there was a new line that was being talked about in my UK stream that matched GW old paints. So is it I know Duncan Rhodes has 2 thin coats paint line. I haven't tried those at all. Daka Flocka Flame. My favorite Reaper paints are clear magenta and the 2 clear phthalocyanines, or however that is spelled. Oh, just put a bunch of H's in. That's what I remember about phthalo. Crows and Bones, the clear phthalos are amazing. I do strongly advise you not to get them on your carpet. Phthalo does not come out. I will tell you that. This one is Steed Green. Do I organize by color or number because I have the swatches? I organize by color. So I get people who organize by number, but my swatches are on the bottle, so I need to have all the blues together so I can go, okay, yes, this blue is more like what I want than that blue. If you have your swatches in a book or separate papers, organizing by number probably would be the easier way to do it. But I had kind of been working on, I sort of split up saturated from desaturated, and I had some things where the split that I did made more sense or was easier to figure out, and then sorted by value. But I think I needed to add, I'm going to have orange brown is its own section, yellow brown is its own section, instead of this is brown from lightest to darkest. That is really tough to put away. This is the kind of green that I love. I mean, I love a lot of colors of green, but I'm very happy with this color. I love this color. I'll have to paint something with that color soon. I don't know that goes with the tiki. Some of the sunset colors may go with the tiki. I'm gonna have to dig some of those up. Crowberry, which was related to another store, I think. Now I'm like, it was, I've slept since then. I don't remember anything. Grey Master said these paints look like P3 pots, but were not P3. Crows and Bones, the Reptilian Greens Triad are the only 3 Reaper paints I've never been able to find. They went out of production so long ago. There were several paints around then that went out of production, and this the set of this originally went out of production, and then Sandy Brown came back, I think. But I was the weirdo who liked this one better. I mean, not that I hate Sandy Brown or anything, but there were some monster colors, which I don't know that they're exactly the same, but we now have a very nice selection of monster colors, or humanoid, or whatever colors in the Bones paints. There's Minotaur hide and Cobalt scale and Goblin skin and a few others, and they're nice colors. I like them. I mean, not just for the named creature. Oh, see, that's pretty. And that's another. This is a nice color for lips, which we seem to have trouble keeping a pink that people like to use for lips and blush in production. So I threw Crowberry out there as one of those. Let's see, Morning Glory. Watercolors are the distributor for Turbo Dork in the UK, apparently. I've been intrigued by their paint claims, but I managed to talk myself down. Because really, what am I using all of these paints? I mean, I use a lot of my paints, but I'm using all of them. This is one of those colors that, like, maybe it's not going to look exciting, but I think it's very useful. All right, maybe I was a little too conservative. That's the trickiness of doing these watercolor swatches, is whether you have enough water or not. These colors were purpose made. I picked them out. Usually there are people at Reaper who do that, but they were all very busy this year, and Ron asked me if I could suggest some colors. So I made a list of more than these. I think it was like 25 or 30. And we found a color reference that we could use in common so that we could do this at a distance. And I said, okay, here are colors that are kind of similar to ones people liked in the past but aren't available, or I see a hole in the lines. Like, we didn't really have a bright yellow-green, which just seems impossibly weird, but I'm like, I checked and double-checked. That was why it was nice I had all those swatches on the bottle, because when I would look through the color reference and kind of make a bookmark and say, oh, this might be a good color, but I double check against all my paint samples. It's like, okay, but have we had something like that? Is something like that currently already in production? So I was trying to avoid anything that's, very similar to stuff we already had, or that you can easily access now. This is just going to be so nice for highlighting certain colors. And we have some really nice warm grays, like kind of grays with a touch of brown. We don't have a ton of cool grays, warm grays with a touch of blue. And then this is kind of just a little touch of purple as a gray. And again, maybe it looks kind of boring on screen, but I love it and it's beautiful. I swear that I did not make these to my taste, though. I was looking at my lists of, here's things I've seen people mention in chat on the forums that they come up to my desk and talk about. I have a note on my phone, and when I see color names coming up repeatedly, I go put it on my note. Ghostly Fog. Green users love the Sandy Triad and is glad to see the yellow back. Gel Tip also likes the Mistwood. Yay. All right, there's an address for the UK company that has the Turbo Dork paints. So if you are in the UK and you've been wanting to get those paints, look in the chat as you're watching this restream, or look for Exit 23 Games if you're watching on YouTube. So this is Ghostly Fog, which is more of the blue with a touch of gray. or what I think of this is like if you want to do, I like doing kind of a blue steel thing sometimes when I do non-metallic metal, but you don't want like a lot of blue in there. You want like just like a little hint of blue so it still looks like steel. So I would like take a regular gray and highlight with something like this for that effect. But also there are duller grays, like you're trying to make jeans, or there's some other colors. There are some very vivid blues. There's some very vivid blues in the Reaper line, but there are also some nicer, less saturated ones for old clothes or, a certain mood. But there weren't a lot of colors for highlighting them, so that's why I picked out that one. And then Grays and Mists were also very thematic. If you do ever get that book, you will read about a lot of misty, foggy, scary places. So it is very thematic to have, using my new little baby dragon already. That's a pretty good pin too. If you aren't able to get a pokey tool like that, T-pins work, but you will get paint on your fingers. Which then you can rub on your bottles as swatches. I didn't even think of stuff like that. I'm doing it the hard way this time. I don't know why I always have to do everything the hard way. You guys have such good ideas. I should always ask you for ideas before I try doing something. So this is like a purpley gray, a teal gray, and then more of a true blue gray. But it's interesting, like that one looked blue. Like I actually thought that, I forgot about the bluer one that I also had suggested a teal one until I put the blue there, which is why it's good to like take your swatches or at least your bottles and put them together, or mess around on your palette when you're picking colors, because color is always relative. The colors that are around it vastly affect your perception of what it looks like. But now let's dive into the colors that I know you've all been waiting to see. And since these are metallics, even though I shook them at the beginning of the show, I am going to use my noisy machine and shake them again, just to make sure. Well, maybe I'll just shake real hard myself while I look at what your chat was. Crows and Bones lean towards more muted colors. I think they're super useful, and if you become comfortable with color mixing, they're not terribly hard to mix. But if you're just starting out, or you're not very comfortable, or you're trying to save time, it is a pain to mix them. So I think it's nice when a paint line offers you some ready to go, less saturated colors. I think I've talked about how to mix them on shows before, but that might be something that'd be good to go back and revisit, or do like more examples of. That's not Rain Feather. I didn't do these ones in order. All right, so I'm actually going to make nice big swatches of these so that we can see the shimmer. And I don't know that we use metallic thin down a lot, but you can kind of do it as a glaze over something. So I will go ahead and do the thin down version too. So that is Tomb Treasure. Good for like mithril or adamantine or some kind of magical metal. This is Ghost Vein. So when I was talking to Reaper about this, and I was talking to Ron, I'm like, people have mentioned that amethyst, whatever it is, the amethyst metallic that I don't remember the exact name of, isn't the same as it used to be. And that is 100% true. It is not the same as it used to be. It used to be a very vivid magenta. So I was like, people want that back. Can we do it? And it turns out that we cannot do it. It was made with a dye. Dyes can reactivate or cause other problems. So Anne reformulated it. But we can do something more magenta-y, and that's what Ghost Vein is. It's beautiful. Oh, look at it. It's beautiful. So if you want to give someone a beautiful silk or satin dress, there's a great color for it. And that seemed like, like reddish purple, pinkish purple, magenta seems like one of the colors we've designated as magic. Like, so magical things are often depicted in those colors. Yeah, so Gray Mouser was saying this might be a good color for heather blue, and yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing that I wanted it for. Let's see, Zachariah says, I've been putting all these colors to use in a diorama. Ooh, well now I'm intrigued and I want to see the diorama. Daka Flocka Flame really liked Concrete Gray from the old HD line. Yeah, I like that one a lot too. But I think it's a warm gray and you can kind of get there with some of the current colors we'd have. I'd have to go look at it to know for sure. Babatuk is saying HD is basically bones, but with different colors. Yes. That was a new kind of paint. Like, I think the things that they used to make HD and then bones, not all of those ingredients were available when the original line was developed. And so it allowed Anne to make more opaque colors. And then they weren't presented in the triads either. So that's the big difference between those two. They all intermix. They're all, paint. They're all acrylic paint. They like each other. I treat them pretty much the same in my mind, other than if I'm trying to paint fast, I will look for a bones or an HD color, especially like for reds or something like that, because of the higher coverage. Pendrake made a 2-cent pokey tool by gluing 2 US pennies on each side of a T-pen. For my next trick, I'm considering doing a 10-cent version. Ooh, if you really want to go crazy, you could spend 25 cents on this project. Well, no, I guess you have to spend 50 cents. Gray Mouser, I don't recall if Reaper did a gel paint line. It was popular for a short time with some companies, not to my knowledge. I don't think so. These super washes that we had briefly, okay, see, I did not stir that one enough. I can tell there's kind of a white haze on it. That's the medium, so more medium than pigment is coming out. It may have been stuck in the cap. That happens sometimes. Or I just didn't shake enough. Also happens sometimes. If you really want to make sure, I recommend stirring. So I'm going to get my little stir stick and make sure we get all the pigment flowing. So when I do my paint maintenance, I will usually do this. I will pop off the dropper. I mean, I'll do a sample just to see what it looks like, coming out of the thing. But I will pop the dropper off and make sure that paint isn't gunking up in there, because that happens a lot. So you'll have the paint that's up there will start to dry out quicker. And then you'll think your paint's dried out, but it's very likely that the paint here is fine, or you just need to add a little bit of water. So I recommend going through all your paint bottles, yes, I mean all, every couple of years. And the metallics more often if you can. And I know that seems crazy, but I have done it. And then this one, I didn't even know if this would be possible. And then Ron sent me the picture of what the paint lady cooked up. And I was like, oh, it's so nice. And she'd painted it over an actual wing too. So it looked extra cool. So there's kind of like a color shimmer in there that we'll hopefully see more as it dries. You can see like there's some black, there's some blue. It's got stuff going on. The other two are almost dry, so you're getting a good look at what they are. This one is called Raven Feather, and it is meant to kind of give you that, little blue-black shimmer that you would get off a raven. Now, if I was really going nuts painting a raven, I might highlight a few little spots with some other shades of metallic to really try to get that iridescent thing working. But if I were just trying to get a raven painted real quick, this would do the job. So these are definitely dry. We'll look at these ones again. And the color is definitely not the same on my monitor as it is to my eyeballs, but it's not super far off. This looks a little more purple on my screen, but everybody's screen is different. And this looks a little more vivid on my screen. I mean, to my eyes than on my screen. But I will try to take a picture with my good camera and then color correct a little. It's hard when you've got a variety of colors. I noticed that another time when I was making suggestions, I guess probably last year when I was making suggestions to Ron, the way I handled it then is I did paint mixes and painted them on things and then mailed them to him. But to have a backup in case something happened in the mail, I wanted to scan them all in. And I noticed that where I had like very divergent colors, it was really hard to get all the colors on a thing, on one picture to look correct. Or if I like included multiple pages. But if I had a page where it was just like, you know, mostly these colors and they're the same, it was far easier to take the picture or manipulate the picture in, I don't use Photoshop, I use GIMP, but, you know, to tweak it until it looked like what I saw with my eyes. So I guess color is relative to the camera as well as to the human eye. So it's wet still on the very edges, but it's pretty dry in the middle. So that gives you an idea. Now these things, this will look cooler if it's on a 3D object. Because, like I said, that wing was like super cool when Ron sent me that picture. Well, I think there was a little video too. I'm like, that is so cool. So those are the colors for this year. I very much suspect that there are extras of those, and they will come onto the website. Almost all the figures. If you came in a little later, I went through the figures that are in the Barrowgate box and that were in the swag bag. The swag bags are sold out. The Barrowgate boxes are still on sale on reapermini.com. I also showed, let's show Mako again. Where did he go? Mako. Oh my God, these were like right here. I'm so disorganized. How do I use a form image? Ah, there, I snuck under something. So this is Mako, the Tiki Shark, and this is a fundraising miniature for victims of the Maui fires. So $7.50 of every purchase will go to the fundraising. This is coming to the UK hub. It is not there yet. So this is very recently finished. It's on a boat, or it's getting on a boat, but it is not there yet, but you will be able to purchase it. And then this is Rael Rainfeather, who is the mini of the month. So if you purchase online from Reaper, you can get her as a free gift with purchase, minimum purchase. Or you can just buy her. Like if you don't have other stuff you want to buy right now, even though Quindy is sharing the link to all of the ReaperCon 2023 stuff. And I'd probably just keep an eye on that link, and if other things are added, they'll be there. Or keep an eye on socials, watch Reaper Live, stuff like that, and you're bound to get an announcement of when other things are coming out. But from what Quindy said, a lot of things are coming out either the 15th or the 30th. So the things that I showed you, everything except the Arachno Assassin, I think that even the little tools are up already, and the book and the poster should be coming available. And actually, I think Quindy said the book is coming out online. So Quindy said, yeah, check back, and I imagine people will point stuff out on the Discord as they become available. So yes, whatever your communication channel of preference is, keep an eye on it, or ask questions on it now and then, and you should be able to get all these cool things. Unfortunately, will these paints stay in production? Probably not, because they are special edition. But if there's ones we really love, tell people like me, tell people at Reaper, and maybe they'll make their way into regular production. So I think, oh wow, how did I even get that close to being exactly right? Because I started this as like, well, it feels like 100 years since I've done this. I have no idea if I'll end way early, or there won't be time to do the swatches, or what'll happen. But here we are. Look at that raven feather again now that it's really, really almost dry. And I just about did it. So Quindy will, I'm sure, find us a raid to watch some other streamer who's doing some cool things that miniature people like ourselves would enjoy. And I will hopefully see you next week, where I think I'm going to work on Mako, because he's fun and I haven't painted something like that. before. And yeah, I guess that's it. So thanks everyone for coming and being so, sharing so much cool information with me and each other in the chat. The chat was really hopping for me today. It was a lot of fun. And I'll see you next week, I guess. Well, Quindy hasn't put up a thing yet, but any minute now. Any minute now. Thanks everyone. I really appreciate you coming back after my long absence and intermittent hanging out. Oh, we're going to go see Quantum Minis. See you guys later. Bye.